So I've just come through the house because we've also got a Crumble. Crumble! This is our guard dog. We've also got some interesting plants and flowers outside the front of the house as well. And it just so happened that one of my patrons asked about dog roses, wild roses in the hedge, and I noticed that we've actually got some in our hedge at the moment. So this very pretty wild rose grows in the hedge. Now you'll be hearing all the sounds of the countryside going on right now. There is a tractor threshing the grass in the field right behind this hedge. Can you see that one? Whoops. There it is. So there are tractors in the hedge, planes going on overhead, cars racing around. We do live in the tranquil countryside, I promise you. There are birds also. They normally drown out everything else. But we're going to have a go. Oh, and Crumble barking as well. I don't know if you can hear him. So anyway, we're going to have a go at painting some of those lovely wild roses because I'm sure a lot of you will be spotting them now in your hedges. But for now, apart from Crumble's dulcet tones, I will say grab your paints and let's get started. We have this amazing oak tree opposite our house, and those tiny little white dots are also the roses. They grow all around and they're just like little stars in the hedge. Here are a few of the roses that I just cut from the hedge. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 heart-shaped petals, a single layer of petals, and a little thorn, a little leaf. But what is really sort of significant about these plants is you'll always find them tangled up in a hedge, on another plant, on another tree. And that's what I want to paint today, and I've got a really fun way of painting that, but it involves a bit of masking fluid. So make sure you've got some masking fluid and we can get started. I want to create a sort of twist and tangle of these flowers. Instead of drawing a ton of tangled stems, we don't necessarily need to do that, but what we do need to do is draw a little circle or a little oval wherever we want a flower. And so I'm just sort of doing it randomly. That's probably more than enough. I'll just do one more there. And you see they're probably going to overlap each other. I'm going to use it's quite a large brush to apply my masking fluid. Don't forget that brushes do sort of get a bit affected by masking fluid. It clings onto them. So I'm going to paint in. This is a circle, so this is an open-faced flower, so the petals would all protrude fairly evenly from this flower. Well, I always find you draw 4 and you're like, I can't fit a 5th one in, and just squeeze it in, because in the same way in nature, as long as your petals are all sort of anchored into the middle, you can absolutely allow for a few sort of slightly weird squished ones. And notice how they can overlap on the page. Size 6 brush is a good size for this. My piece of paper is 6 by 8 inches, and I'm just doing a general kind of coverage of flowers through the middle. So these are all sort of evenly open-faced flowers. And next I will do one that's a little bit on its side, which is luckily we've got one a little bit on its side. So we can see up at the back, we can see quite a nice sort of heart-shaped petal shape. Then at the sides we're going to just see more of a sort of gentle curve. We're not going to see a huge amount. And you don't necessarily have to paint in every single petal on a side facing one. You might just see a little bit. So fill in your flowers with your masking fluid and then clean off your brush as much as you can. See if you can preserve it. And then we will get on with painting our hedge. Okay, let's go. Let's have some fun with this. So you can see that the stems have got a really sort of deep red colour in them. So we're going to mix up a bit of alizarin crimson, a bit of moon glow as well, a bit of deep sap green. It's already earning its keep, this colour. So I think the three of them will make a good stem mix. Oh yeah, like that. And then we've just got our greens for leaves. But I'm going to begin by sort of placing in some stems and some little sort of sepals on the flowers. Obviously the masking fluid is going to mask whatever I paint that doesn't hit the page. And now I want to create a sense of a tangle. So I'm doing this all with a size 4 brush. What I like sometimes about trying to create fine lines and stems with one of these larger brushes is just how much sort of character you get in those lines. And now I'm going to just add in a few extra stems, which we're going to start painting leaves with. And what's really important in this piece is we need to basically sort of fill this page with colour to be able then to show where the flowers are once we peel the masking fluid off. So I'm going to take a really large brush. I'm going to start with some green gold and I'm going to begin to paint in sort of leaves, but they are sort of sweeps of colour that are just starting to coincide with some of the petals and build a shape of the piece. And then it looks a bit wild at the moment, but that's fine. Now I'm going to start creating some leaf shapes, actually using some sap green this time. But you can see, because we've got the real thing in front of us, we can actually see sort of what these leaves look like. So they've got a bit of a serrated edge. So I'll get a bit of, I think I'll go down a size, get a bit of deep sap green and start to just sort of shape the edges of these leaves whilst they're still wet. And also a little bit of something up the middle. Now it's a warm day here and we managed to put those in with a little bit of time. We weren't rushing too much, so don't panic too much if you want to paint in a few leaves. And this is how it really feels when you see them in the hedge. They're just tiny little sort of white stars that are just shining out in amongst lots of dark foliage. So enjoy putting this together, and my aim is to have created a nice sort of quite full and busy tableau with lots of different greens and leaf shapes here and there, whilst also making sure we get a good coverage around and over the edges of the petals. Right, we've got our full little tableau, and just if you look across, you'll see that I've made an effort to pretty much get the flowers completely sort of surrounded with paint. And now it's time to unmask the flowers. I'm doing this with a rubber. I do find that green paint is particularly troublesome when peeling off masking fluid with my fingers, so I try and do the bare minimum with my hands. These are quite large areas of masking fluid, so they'll come away. Just be patient, don't rub too vigorously or too hard. I'm not actually applying a huge amount of pressure as I go, but you see what's happening, the flowers are appearing. We now need a petal mix, so I'm going to take tiny bit of buff titanium and Paynes Grey, burnt sienna and Paynes Grey, and then I'm going to add some buff titanium just to get it nice and creamy. And essentially we're painting a white flower, but there's always a hint of some kind of colour in there, so if I put a little bit of yellow, just a tiny bit more Paynes Grey. I just wanted a little bit greeny grayer. Okay, that's lovely. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start defining these petals. So I've got a size 4 brush and just sort of sweeping some colour out from the centre. There are going to be times where we actually want to sort of outline it a bit like that, and other times where we just need a little sweep outwards. And this is going to give us the beautiful flowers that we've seen in the hedge. Now I've done all the very dilute shadow on the flowers, I'm taking some quite wet cadmium yellow and using that central circle or oval that I painted in initially, and just adding in some little filaments with my 4/10 brush. Just make sure they sort of curl out from the centre like a multi-legged spider or a hairy sunshine. And if you're going from the side like this, then all of the little filaments want to angle upwards like that. And we're going to finish this off with some burnt sienna and some Paynes Grey, but we're going to use them separately. So first off, just a bit extra Paynes Grey on some of the little filaments, and then a nice concentrated blob of burnt sienna. It's great, we've got the real thing in front of us. so it sort of clusters together in the middle. Just like that. So just a little bit. It just helps give it just that little bit extra depth to make it more visible. And then I'm sort of working in a rough sort of oval or circle depending on the angle. And then there'll always be a few wayward ones. It's such a pleasure to be able to paint things with you that are growing either in our garden or around about in the vicinity, because it's so nice to have the real thing in front of you, really. And then they do have this tiny little extra stamen, so you could always do just a little shadowy little curl in the centre. And there you have it. Just thought I'd pop it on because it sort of matches quite nicely. A lovely little set of wild roses in the hedge using a masking fluid technique, and just a lovely way to fill a page of a sketchbook, create a card. I think that is a really lovely trick to have up your sleeve. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and comment, let me know how you got on with that one. And of course, if you never want to miss another video, make sure you are subscribed to the channel, and you've got so many hundreds of videos to enjoy. So do that at your leisure, and I'll see you again next time. Bye!